For those who have attended these webinars before, they're very familiar with our giveaway that we're doing. We are giving away 6 books, Sexual Citizens. It is a study on campus sexual assault. It is very amazing and very applicable to sexual assault offsite or off campus. So you don't have to do anything extra. If you are registered for these webinars, you will be already entered into the giveaway. They also were the second webinar that we had for this series, and that webinar is on our YouTube page, which we will show the link for in just a few slides, so you can check that out. Would like to have the other prevention team and folks who have been working on this webinar series introduce themselves if they would like. So please feel free to just say hey if you want to.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Curley. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a prevention coordinator with WCASA.
Morning, I'm Megan, a staff evaluation coordinator, also use she, her, hers pronouns.
I think Peter's frozen. Oh no, you're back, Peter. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I think I'm back. Sarah, I missed all that, but I think I know you by now. Technology and events coordinator, Peter Fiala. Happy to be here and excited for Peggy and Claudia today.
Thank you. So as mentioned, our YouTube page is listed here, and we also have some great prevention resources on our website if you would like to check that out. And here is we're past halfway. So here's the calendar for the next 2 webinars that will be happening on December 4th and December 18th. Peter will be sending out registration for those in just a few. So look out for those. And like I said, the other webinars that happened previously on the schedule here are recorded and on our YouTube page. So please check them out. So we're about to turn it over to Peggy and Claudia from Partners for Youth Empowerment. So Partners for Youth Empowerment is a global nonprofit dedicated to unleashing the creative power of young people. They provide individuals, schools, and organizations the skills and strategies to lead transformative programs for youth that build self-confidence, motivation, social and emotional competence, and leadership, proven predictors of well-being and success. Today, we are joined by Peggy Taylor and Claudia Pineda Reyes. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and I've lost my mouse. There it is.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Peggy Taylor, and let's see. So 25 years ago, we started Partners for Youth Empowerment, and this was I hadn't worked with youth before, and I learned all of my facilitation skills by working with teenagers. And as any of you know, teenagers don't give you teenagers say it the way it is. You have to be really sharp with your facilitation to work well with teenagers. And so one of our secret sauces is using creative practices, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But when I discovered that actually facilitation is a joyful, fun practice, especially when you have the secret sauce of using creative practices, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with working with teenagers. I fell in love with working with adults. And my life is completely devoted to sharing facilitation practices with people who work with young people and adults, because it makes such a difference. And so I'm just pleased that all of you are here today. We've got 70 people. The fact that you're on this line shows me that you have the desire to increase your skills and just be that really, really great person for the young people in your programs or the adults in your programs. So I can't wait to see what happens today. And I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, Claudia Pineda. Go ahead, Claudia.
Morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here today. So excited that I woke up like 2 hours early and I was tossing and turning in my bed because I just wanted to meet with you all. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Claudia Pineda. I use she, her pronouns.
Yeah.
Social worker, and I have spent the last 10 years providing direct services in the anti-violence field, specifically in the domestic violence field. And the past 3 years, I have been working in the local government here in Seattle in the abolition of the youth criminal punishment system field, doing policy. And most of those years I have spent, because as y'all know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, this work is hard, but for me, the relief and having fun and part of my self-care and nurturing is having been a facilitator. I've been facilitating with PI, Partners for Youth Empowerment, for the past 5 years. And I'm super excited to be here with y'all because something that is really nurturing for me about doing this work is that every single one of you have something to bring to the field. As a facilitator, even if you've never done this before, you can learn some quick tips and tricks to make online trainings more engaging and fun and joyous. And so I can't wait to share these gifts with you so that you can incorporate them into your work. We are going to start out with a really quick calming exercise. And earlier we were chatting before y'all joined on, and it's, you know, it's really challenging sometimes to come into online meetings, and we all have different relationships with that. Also, we are experiencing challenging times in the world. So we often bring stress to the programs, and we're gonna do this regulation activity. So what I'm gonna ask y'all to do is put your hands, crisscross them like me on your chest. And you're just gonna take turns left and right, patting yourself as if you're giving yourself a hug. So this rhythmic patterning calms and regulates our nervous system. Everything that we do in today's training is a model of what you can do. So this is a really quick thing that you can do when you're starting out meetings. That doesn't take a whole lot of time and invites everybody to get tuned in.
We'll also be sending you a manual with everything that we do today so that you don't have to take any notes.
All right, so thank y'all for joining me on that. Now, at the top of your screen, you could put everybody in gallery view. At the top right hand of your screen, you click on the icon where it says gallery view. If that's already there for you, you should be able to see a whole screen of a bunch of little pictures. And we are going to give a big welcome to each other. So everybody, this is your right. Lefty Lucy, left over here. Everybody turn to your right and say hello to the person on your right. Everyone turn to the left and say hello to the people on the left. And everyone look down and say hi to the people down there, even if there's no rows below you. Everyone look up and say hello to the people up there, even if there isn't a row above you.
Let's do that again, Claudia.
All right. Say hello to the people on the right. Say hello to the people on the left. Hello to the people down below. And to the people up top. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And just take a moment to scroll through. We have 3 screens of people. Just take a moment to scroll through and just see who's here with us. Wonderful. We have 71 people this morning. This is fabulous. So I'm going to share my screen. And we're just going to go through our goals for this very short program. And the first is to increase your ability to lead engaging groups online. When we first hit COVID, our work, as I think your work is too, is so person to person. It's so relational. We're like, you can't do this online. We kept saying we should try it out, but we just didn't have the belief that it could translate online. And so we were forced. And when we were forced, we found out actually that our approach to the creative empowerment model, which we'll talk about in a minute, actually provides some real keys to leading on engaging groups online. And the more you're able to lead engaging groups online, of course, the more impact you're going to be able to have with the people that you work with, the more fulfilled you'll be in your work, and the more engaged you'll be yourself. So that's our first goal, is to increase your ability. Increase your ability to lead engaging groups online. Claudia.
Our second goal is to gain a toolbox of activities that build a sense of community and connection. As you can imagine, this is a lot more challenging doing it online. We are all in different places in our homes, and it feels that much more alienating and isolating to some of us. And even those of us that are the most introverted, when we feel a sense of connection to our peers and a sense of community with the people that are doing the work that are with us, not only are we more engaged, but our work outcomes are better and more effective and more productive. And overall, we just feel more fulfilled in whatever role it is that we have in relationship to the work and to the organization.
And our third goal is to learn some Zoom tools that increase interaction. Zoom gratefully is developing and getting better all the time, but there are lots of little tricks you can use. In the handbook that you get, it will describe, I heard somebody say, how do you use music? That will be described in the handbook that you get afterwards. So there's a few Zoom tools will actually teach you specifically, but other things will show up in the handbook that you receive. And so those are our three goals. And the question is, how do we best achieve those goals? And we like to call those community agreements. And we're just going to share two with you today. Of course, with your groups, we advocate that you create agreements together. Having community agreements is a very powerful group facilitation tool. You want to start out, Claudia?
So agreements, what we're going to agree to is during the time that we're together today, how are we going to be with each other? And the first agreement is to avoid put downs of self or other. And so I think that sometimes when we're joking around and trying to make things fun, it's easy to make jokes at other people's expense. We're not going to do that today. Instead, we're going to take the opportunity to lift one another up, and most importantly, to lift yourself up. We're going to invite you to focus on challenging any kinds of narratives or self-deprecating talks. So no put downs of yourself or other people.
And the second is to be willing to try new things. We're going to be doing some things from the world of creative expression today. And some of you might say, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, I can't do this. Actually, everyone is creative in our book. And as you all know, trying new things is the way we learn. So we encourage you just for this next hour and something, to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. There's no right way, no wrong way. You can't do anything wrong on here. And just be willing to try new things.
Great, thank you. It looks like y'all are already following the agreements, because when you came in and said hello to the left and to the right, you were already following these two agreements. So thank you for modeling. Okay. I am going to invite y'all to follow a set of instructions. I'm going to teach you the first little trick here. And this is a way.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Claudia, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to have to get off of here.
Okay. This is a way that we encourage people to turn their cameras on and to participate. And so I noticed as we were scrolling and saying hello to everybody that half the folks on here have their cameras off. And I know that some of y'all absolutely can't turn your cameras on for whatever's going on in your environment. But for those of us that can, please, please turn your cameras on. And I'm going to invite everybody to change a little setting just for this activity. So if everybody go down to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and there's a little arrow where it says stop video or turn camera on. You want to click on the arrow. And at the very bottom of the list that comes up there, you should see video settings. Click into video settings. Now you should have a screen once you click in there that has another little screen. And below there's a list of settings. Scroll down and make sure that where it says hide non-video participants, there is a check mark on there. If it's already checked, just leave it that way. Make sure that there's a check mark where it says hide non-video participants. And then you close out. So go ahead and hit the X to close that window at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Now, everybody that has their camera on, please have your camera on if you can. And I'm going to ask you to do the opposite thing now. So when you go to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you know where it says stop video? Go ahead and hit stop video. Everybody turn off your camera. So everyone should have their camera off now.
We've got almost everybody.
Okay.
There we go. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So you should have a completely dark screen. There shouldn't be anybody's face on here. And next, I'm going to ask you some questions. And if these questions apply to you, if it's a yes, turn your camera on. So go ahead and turn your camera on if you have a pet. Wow, that's a lot of us. So go ahead and look through the pictures. Look who all turned their camera on. That's 2 whole pages of people. Amazing. Excellent, great. Okay, now turn your camera off again. Everybody turn off your camera. Right, go ahead and turn your camera on if you lead groups online. Awesome. Make sure you look at everyone's faces.
Wow.
Wow, we got a big group of group leaders. Great. All right, everyone turn your cameras off again. All right, this time, turn your cameras on if you find that leading online groups to be challenging.
A lot of commonality here.
Go ahead and see who else shares that challenge with you. All right, everyone turn your camera off. This time, please turn your camera on if you can't wait for COVID quarantine to be over.
Oof.
It's totally possible that people can be like, no, I never want to leave my home again. So that's 2 whole pages of people. Okay, everybody turn your camera off again, please.
Let's just go to the last question, Claudia.
Sounds good. And finally, please turn your camera on if you look forward to the rest of this presentation.
Yay.
All right, thank you so much. That was super fun, y'all.
So we're going to share right now a little way to do a quick poll. We find this camera off, camera on is a good way to get reluctant students to just practice turning their camera on and off. They don't have to have their camera on. We always give permission not to, but these are ways to just kind of increase the possibility. And here's a way to do just a really quick poll. I'm going to ask everybody where you stand in terms of your comfort with Zoom. 1 being not comfortable with it at all, and 5 being, yes, I'm very comfortable. I've got a lot of fluidity with it. So if everybody would just put their fingers up 1 to 5. Nice. We've got a lot of 3s, a lot of 4s. Let's see, do we have some 1s? Oh, some 5s, 2s. Great. Okay, we've got the whole gamut here. And again, this is when you first start your program, one of the great facilitation tips is to get every voice in the room. And there's different ways to get every voice in the room. The voice doesn't actually have to be the voice itself. It can just be somebody putting their fingers up. Now I'm going to just share something about our model. Okay, and then we'll get into some more activities. Share screen. Okay. Our model is called the Creative Empowerment Model. And as I said, we started it by working with teens 25 years ago, actually at a youth empowerment camp for youth from all different cultures and backgrounds and life situations. And we used 3 bodies of practice. First is experiential learning, which I imagine you're quite familiar with or somewhat familiar with. And we are using an experiential approach in this workshop. The second is leading edge facilitation. The world of facilitation gives us so much understanding of groups, what makes groups tick, how groups work. And the third is the use of arts-based or creative practices. And this use, when you use all 3 together, this leads to empowerment, which we define as increasing the strength and confidence to enact the life we envision for ourselves, our communities, and the world. And so I think our contribution to the field, lots of people use experiential learning, lots of people use facilitation skills, but our contribution to the field is really adding the creative practices into the mix of experiential learning and leading edge facilitation. And I'm going to just, first of all, again, if you don't think of yourself as a creative person or an artsy person, our definition of creativity is not that you're an artist. It's simply our human capacity to think things up in our imagination and make them happen in the world. So we're creative all day long, every day. You make breakfast, that's a creative act. You play with your puppy in the most creative ways. You make a budget for your organization. You come up with a way to connect with a young person. That's an act of creativity. But creativity also has to do with creative expression. And this list is why use creative practices in your work with groups? And here's a few reasons. One is that it engages the whole brain. As soon as someone is involved with their imagination, their whole parts of their brain get activated. And it also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. And it really helps in terms of quieting the effects of trauma. It brings down barriers to participation. When people are involved with creative expression together, there's something about the walls between them just kind of topple and go down, and people feel more comfortable with each other. they feel more connected to you and to themselves and to each other. It also invites a variety of learning styles. You know, there's a lot of things that kids and adults, they can't say necessarily in words, but they might be able to say through drawing, through singing, actually, through moving. And each of our young people, and particularly from a variety of cultures in the world of whiteness really likes one kind of learning style, and it's a very cognitive left brain learning style. And it completely actually invalidates huge numbers of young people. And so when you bring creative practices into your facilitation practice, you open the door for everyone to find a way to participate in the way that's akin to themselves, that is really from their own self, from their own culture, and from their own background. And finally, as a result of that, you bring out the quieter voices. The using creative practices is like the secret sauce, because it just, a lot happens without you having to make it happen. And finally, it elicits joy. There's a beautiful quote I love by a psychologist named Rollo May. And he said that creative expression is most often accompanied by a feeling of shimmering joy. And boy, our kids really need that shimmering joy, and we need it too. And so it also allows for the full range of emotions, so that all emotions find their way. It's not just about being happy. It's about having the full acceptance of the full range of one's emotions. It elicits all that. And one final thing is that it teaches a lot of life skills without people even realizing it. It teaches social emotional skills. It teaches things like attention, paying attention, listening, all these good things. All right, I'm passing it back to my friend, Claudia.
Okay, so you know how earlier I said that we are going to model everything that we teach. So one of the things that is super important in facilitating engaging workshops is that the beginnings are really necessary to engage everybody. And so we shared a bunch of little tricks to incorporate people's voice in the room. And I don't mean literal voice, right? But just by putting numbers up or turning your camera on and on, that's already participation. So any small ways that you can ensure that you're getting as many voices in the room as possible is going to be one of your goals and one of the things that ensures that you have a strong beginning. So those ways of like putting your fingers up or raising your hand, turning the camera on and off, waving to people, it invites people that don't necessarily want to come on the camera. We have 70 participants today. We don't necessarily have time to hear from everybody, but you can ensure that people are more engaged if everybody has even small ways to show up and participate. Okay, so this next little trick that we're going to show y'all is annotation.
Oh, so why don't I do that, Claudia, because I've got the cursor here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, so you should find at the top of your screen something that says you are viewing Peggy's screen. That should show up at the top of your screen. And to the right of that is view options. If you click your cursor on the downward arrow, it opens up, yep, and you click annotate. Annotate brings up all of these tools, and we're going to ask you to try out Stamp, or somebody just tried out, this was good, somebody just did a little of the drawing. This is what you need to do. You need to be in Annotate to do this next activity that Claudia is going to lead us in. Oh yeah, everybody just try putting some things out here just to, yeah, oh, that's fun seeing all the beautiful.
I'm saying they don't have that option on their computer. So for some folks, it might be that you don't have the latest Zoom update. And also when you hit the view options, it looks gray. So it might look like you don't have it, but go ahead and try to click it anyway, and it'll work.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to the next screen. And now if you would hold off for a minute. Claudia's going to walk. Oh, wait a minute. These continue on. So now I have to
Clear. Yeah, just go ahead.
there we go. Thanks.
All right, y'all. So I'm gonna invite y'all to hit the stamp and go ahead and choose 2 emotions and put a little stamp next to the up to 2 emotions that you're feeling. So it doesn't really matter for me what it is that you're feeling, in terms of like, you might be like, oh, I don't want to say that I'm angry or worried or annoyed because Claudia is going to take it personally. It's okay. All feelings are acceptable. We're all in different places, and it's totally okay for wherever it is that you are in your day and whatever is going on in your life. This is just a way for us to get a big picture understanding of what the group is bringing to the table and where everybody is. So once you have put your little stamp on your feeling, this is a really great way to see where people are at, and in an anonymous way. So it looks here like many of you are happy, many of you are good, many of y'all are tired, and then some of us are worried, and it's totally fine. Some of us are confused and sad. No one is scared.
Wow, that's got a couple of angry, yeah. And sometimes our 2 emotions might be really seem to be in conflict. I might be both happy and tired, or happy and worried all at the same time. We just found this on the internet, and you can draw your own how are you feeling kind of emojis, or you can find them on the internet. And again, it's a good way to have everyone get their voice on the table and also teach them that emotional intelligence by having to name their emotion. Okay, we're going to go to another. Okay, now I'm going to stop the share. We're going to go now into breakout rooms in a moment, and we're going to do another way of checking in. We're going to do a little check-in. So Claudia, can you put in the, this is a how am I feeling check-in. And this one we would call I feel like this animal. I'm going to spotlight Claudia, and Claudia is going to spotlight me, and we're going to demo this for you. In this activity, we're actually drawing on the world of metaphor. And the world of metaphor is the world of this is that. I am a wild tiger, or I am a tired bear. As soon as you enter the world of metaphor, it again opens up the whole brain. It's one of those great secret tricks. And so let's see, if you go down to the bottom of your chat now, we're going to ask you to go into breakout rooms in a moment. We're going to ask you to share your name and where you're located, the name of an animal that represents how you feel today. And then you represent that animal with a movement and a sound, and say why you chose the animal. And then everybody in your group is going to say that person's name and copy the animal and sound. Okay, so that's we're gonna demo now. I'm gonna put Claudia in spotlight. Okay, and so you want to start, Claudia?
Sure. My name is Claudia, and I am located in Renton, Washington. And today I feel like a kitten.
Can you make a little sound?
Meow. And I chose a kitten because I have one and I feel like her, which is really energetic and playful.
Okay, so let's all together at the count of 3, we're all going to say Claudia, and the sound of her her animal, the name of her animal in the sound.
So make sure that your mic is unmuted.
1, 2, 3. Claudia. Okay, so we're going to ask you, because you're in this training and you've chosen to be in this training, we're going to ask you to really go for it and be very expressive as you feel comfortable being. However, when you do this with young people, you can take it way back. You can just say, if they're real shy, you can just say the name of the animal. Okay, but we're going to ask you to go for it. And we're going to ask you to do an additional piece of work in your small group. We're going to ask you to go around. And then we're going to ask you to come up with some other metaphors that you could use for a check-in. Here's a few examples. What's a vehicle that represents you? What's a landscape? What's a kind of weather? Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. You're going to have 5 minutes, 5 people, 5 minutes to just go around and do the animal check-in. Be sure to, one person can call on the next person, and then call on the next person and go around that way. Okay, breakout rooms, you're gonna have 5 minutes. And so see if you have time to, okay, I've got 5 people. How many people do we have? Oh, 14 or 15, okay. See if you have time to come up with 3 or 4 other ideas. So off you go, and we will give you a warning halfway through.
Right. All right. Thank y'all. So I just want to hear really quickly, what was that like? What was that experience like? Go ahead and jump on the mic and share with us what that was like for you.
I think at first it was a little awkward, just trying to like come up with an animal, because personally I did a sloth and I don't know what type of noise a sloth makes. So I just moved in really slow motion, which was kind of fun. But I can see how animals specifically would work really well with like a younger age group, because I feel like littles could get really into that. But I think just based off of like the age you're going for, choosing which metaphor matches that age group would be like kind of trying to figure out that prior to like starting the group could be really beneficial.
Yeah, thank you so much. So it sounded like for you it was awkward. What else? Will somebody else jump on the mic and tell us what was that like for you? I saw that someone on the chat said it was uncomfortable for them.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So Mackenzie, I also did a sloth, so I super appreciate that. I thought it was a lot of fun because it's not every day that I get to make animal noises and then listen to people like say that back to me. So I really love that.
What else?
Can I give my opinion?
Of course.
Okay, so at the beginning I was kind of shy to do it and I didn't want to because the animal that I choose or picked was the dolphin and I don't know the noises. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I make that like the movement, the move that they do, and it was really, really fun. Like this activity, I really enjoyed, and I think it's something that I'm going to apply for the future meetings that I want to have.
Excellent. Yeah, and so like this is one of the reasons why the agreements are so relevant, right? Because one of the things that we asked y'all to agree to is to try to do things differently. And guess what? Doing things differently doesn't always feel comfortable. For some of us, it's going to be fun. For others of us, we're going to be like, I don't want to do this, man. I'm going to log out of this training right now, right? And that's okay too. And it's okay to ask people to step out of their comfort zones. It's okay to ask groups to experience a challenge, right? A lot of times you feel more engaged in a group after y'all have done something vulnerable and after y'all have taken a risk together. So I know that in my group, like once everybody did it, there was this like sigh of relief of like, okay, we all did it and we were all okay. And it's also okay if 3 different people did the same animal, what's also exciting about it is seeing how the 3 different people are going to represent that animal, right? So it's okay if 3 of y'all had sloth, but the 3 people are going to have maybe different noises or different types of manifestations of what a sloth looks like, right? Because I see that people were saying it was difficult to be creative or different. And it could be anything, right? It could really be anything, man. It could be a fly, right? And for those of y'all that got to the point to share what was some things that could be different metaphors, go ahead and type them into the group. It sounds like some of y'all had a hard time coming up with that, but go ahead and if you
Flowers, weather, colors.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Song, you know,
Food,
items. Yep,
holidays. Yeah, that's a great one.
that's right. That's right. So every time
Pizza toppings,
Yeah.
lawn equipment.
like Mackenzie was saying earlier, like think about your audience, right? What are they into? Somebody in my group was like, you know, a TikTok trend.
If you were a potato today, how would you be cooked? That's fantastic.
There we go.
What instrument would you be? Yes. There's endless possibilities, but what they all do is open up more of who we are. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to share with you a couple of other things here, and then we're going to do a few more activities. Share the screen, portion of the screen, share. Okay, so I'm going to share something called the IPC model. And this is a model of group participation or group development, which simply means how do you get people to buy in, to want to participate, to be engaged? And what this model says is if you start with something like the imagination, if you invite the imagination into the room, as we just did with that little warm up, people get the message that more than just that their whole self is welcome, their quirky personality, their humor, their thoughts, who they are is welcome into the space. And when you invite the imagination into the room, that leads to P, which is participation. People start to feel more inclined to participate when their imaginations are engaged. And we'll see if this plays out as we do the rest of this workshop. And when people participate using their imaginations, they move into commitment. They get on board with what's going on. And the way this model works is circular, because so at the very beginning of your group, if you do some tiny little thing that just in a very non-threatening way invites in the imagination, if you had a superpower, what would it be? All of these things that these great ideas you came up with. If you were a pizza topping, what would you be today? So as Claudia said, you come up with your idea to meet where your group is at. And as somebody said, yeah, the animals would be really good with younger kids. What would be good for 17 or 18-year-olds? And then, so you start with the very beginning of your group that way, you get your participation going, you get everybody in. And then if you notice that the energy has fallen flat in your group, you go back to the I again and you come up with some little short imagination piece to get everybody awake and engaged again. Does that make sense? Okay, and one other thing, what we call the five power tools. And it's a way to choose activities to get the most social emotional learning, the most life skills learning, and the most engagement. And the first is to engage the imagination, which opens up the whole brain. The second is to engage the body. And this is so important with online, because what do? We just sit here. And when we sit, we hold all of our emotions inside, things stew and get stuck. And so if you can bring the body out, using the body, the next activity we do will use the body. The third is rhythm. when we're in rhythm, we come to rhythm with our own body, with our own heartbeat, and we come into connection with others that we're with. There was a youth worker who talked about the power of rhythmicity. And he said when we're in rhythm with others, whether it's playing Frisbee or dancing or clapping, it's very hard to dislike that other person because we go into resonance with them. And the fourth is voice. If you have activities that bring the voice out, your quieter people will start speaking up just by using their voice. And finally is mirroring. And mirroring is what happens when is copying another person's idea or activity. And some people call this the most pro-social behavior. This is how we learn from each other. This is how we acknowledge each other. So even in that, if you can think back to when you came up with your little animal and maybe you thought it was terrible, but then everybody mirrored it back to you. And how did that feel? What we see with young people is when their creative ideas are mirrored back, it just gives them that sense, oh, I actually can do this. And it builds confidence, it builds connection. So these are the 5 power tools. And I'm going to pass it back to Claudia now for another activity.
I was sharing in the chat that so using the body and, you know, engaging different learning styles is like a lot of us are visuals. And so, you know, actions are really memorable. And so are, whenever you have the opportunity to incorporate sounds, sounds are also important. And so that's why we were doing an animal and what is the sound that comes with an animal. And none of this is about being right. And you're not being graded on this activity. So if you don't know what a dolphin sounds like, make a noise up. And, you know, this isn't about correcting people. It's like, if you think that's what a dolphin sounds like, that's great. So this next activity, I'm going to ask y'all to, at the top right hand of your screen, go ahead and put it, rather than gallery view, put it in speaker view, please. And you know how y'all were sharing like, oh, I really didn't want to do this. You know, it made me uncomfortable. It was awkward. One of the cool things about doing a training like the one we're doing today is we're asking y'all to do the things that when you lead groups, you're going to be asking your participants to be doing these things. So you already know what it felt like. If you lead groups, if it's with adults or whether it's with youth, you could then understand when you ask them to do something that it's going to feel awkward and uncomfortable for some. And some people in your group might be like, fine, let's go ahead and do it. I feel perfectly comfortable doing this. The point is understanding that you have all kinds of experiences in the room. So what you want to continue to create is an environment where people, rather than being like, nope, I'm not doing that, you want to create an environment where people are going to say yes. And not just yes to try on goofy activities, but yes to accepting people's ideas. Yes to jumping onto what people are contributing to the group. And it's not just about intellectual things, but it's opening your mind up to being inclusive of however it is that people are showing up, whether if it's a feeling, whether if it's, you know, people that choose to use gender pronouns, and that's not something you've been used to. We're creating an environment of saying yes to things. So for this game, what is going to happen is one person, whoever feels compelled to, is going to say, hey, everybody, let's, and you can come up with an action, right? So for example, hey, everybody, let's swim. And that person is going to then, you know, swim. And everybody else is going to say, yes, let's. And everybody also then swims. Okay. And you do that action for a little bit. And then the next person that feels compelled to also comes onto the mic and says, hey, everybody, let's, and then you do another motion. And then everyone else then replies and says, yes, let's, and they do that motion, and so on and so on. So we would like to have 4 or 5 volunteers. So please raise your hand in the participant window. Raise your hand if you can volunteer. If you will volunteer for us, please. Okay, so we have Leslie, we got 1. All right, we need 3 more volunteers. We got Leslie. We also have Vicky, Renee, 3, 1 more. 1 more volunteer, please.
Let's do Samantha. Samantha Schrader.
All right, well.
And these are so easy. It can be, let's jump up and down. Let's fly around like planes. It can be anything.
Samantha, you got called out, but do you want to volunteer?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all.
Don't worry, I can get her back.
Claudia,
Okay.
let's start with you.
Okay.
I think it'd be good if you spotlight people.
Okay, I will spotlight y'all after I go.
And everybody needs to be off mute so we can hear everybody. And if you feel comfortable, stand up, because this gets your body off of that chair.
Hey everybody, let's peekaboo. So then,
Yes, let's.
Yes, let's.
Yes,
Peekaboo.
Everybody.
Peekaboo. 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 Okay, stop.
Okay.
oh, okay. Raiko, I highlighted your screen, so go for it.
Okay. Hey everybody, let's put on our masks.
Yes.
Yes, let's.
Oh, Renee has their mask like in front of them. Hey everybody, I don't know if you know how to do this, but we can hand jive if you want.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, let's.
It's
Oh, clap your.
hands.
I don't know what a hand jive is, sorry.
Yes.
Hey everybody, let's flap our arms.
Yes.
Yes, let's.
Yeah.
I know, I don't get it.
This is what I have to put up with every day.
That's the real Leslie.
Who was our 4th volunteer? Can you remind me, please?
It might have been Vicky. Oh, no.
Yeah, Vicky.
Okay, I was just gonna ask everybody to stand up and sit down. So stand up and stretch. And sit back down. Stand up and stretch. And sit back down.
Let's.
Stand up and stretch. Sit back down. Stand up and stretch. Sit back down. Well, that's what I was doing.
Hey everybody, let's just all sit back in our seats and get ready for the next activity. Yes, let's.
Yes,
Okay.
let's.
Okay, we're going to play another game now called Yes and this is a game that actually that we just did Yes Let's, which really sets up kind of a yes atmosphere in your group. And this is another game that's a storytelling game. And I have to find Claudia to, Claudia, can you put the instructions in the chat? And I need to find Claudia. There she is. Okay.
I will. I'm toggling 2 screens, so it takes me a little bit.
Okay, there we go. So Claudia and I are going to demo this. And again, this is just, this is a storytelling game. You can't do it wrong. You're just kind of listening to each other and making up a story together. And the way it goes is the first person starts by telling a story. It can be any story. And you tell 2 to 3 sentences of the story and end at the end of a sentence. Then the next person picks up with the words yes and that person tells 2 or 3 sentences of the story, comes to the end of a sentence. The next person starts with the words yes and. Okay, we're going to demonstrate for you. You want to start, Claude?
Sure. And when Peggy says, you know, start a story, it doesn't have to be something real. It could just be something you made up. It could be anything. It could just be 2 or 3 random sentences, and the story will unfold as everybody adds on. So yesterday I was eating pizza and watching TV in my living room with my kitten and my puppy.
Yes, and. So I use the word yes, and because Claudia started with I continue with I. Yes, and as I sat there, I noticed that my puppy looked really angry, and he looked like he was going to attack the kitten.
Yes, and this is normal for my kitten and my puppy. But I don't know, I kind of had a feeling that something was wrong. And so, you know, even though I was really into my TV show, I felt compelled to get up and go check the situation. What was going on?
Yes, and I looked up and I saw that there was a hole in the ceiling, and there was like this thing that looked kind of like a slithery dragon was sticking its head out of the ceiling and making a weird face at my dog. Go ahead.
Yes, and then when I was looking at the dragon, I realized that the dragon started to stick its tongue in and out of its mouth and making this like hissing noise, going, and my cat freaked out and ran out of the room. And then my dog like started chasing my kitten out of the room too. And I just stood there terrified. I didn't know what to do.
Okay, so you get the idea. So it's one storyteller, and you just go round and round until your time is up. Okay, any questions? All right, we're going to send you in rooms. And again, you can just have at this. Your story can go anywhere. The only thing that's important is you have to accept what the person before you said and take it from there.
And you'll know when your story comes to an end, you know, like often the story itself will reach a crescendo and you're like, and that's the end of the story, right? So just give your story a name. What was the name of that story? So Peggy, what would be the name of our story?
I don't know. I don't know. Dragon Tales.
So also once Peggy puts us in breakout rooms, if you hit chat, you can see the prompts so that y'all aren't lost in trying to figure out what the instructions are.
All right, you're going to be in groups of 3 or 4, and off you go. Okay. Let's just hear a couple comments on how that one went for you, and you can also type in the chat. Lots of laughing, yes, and laughing is healing. Anybody want to speak out loud?
I can share my experience. I just can't stop laughing since I heard the dragon in your story, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassed. And I'm glad that my partner was Claudia, so that was good. That helped a lot. Yeah.
The yelling man with 1 shoe and 2 ice cream cones. A tinsel bear. So I have a question. How did playing these games, and I know for some of you the games were uncomfortable, but how did playing these games change the feeling of your body or your emotions, if it did? And you can just type into the into the chat or speak out loud.
I feel this got me moving a lot more. I had associated with a sloth when we first began, and now I feel a lot more moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say this. I was gonna say the same thing, that it I think it helps to energize, you know,
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. And it helped to energize and I think it also was really good. It brings you to the here and now, which I really love that part.
Doesn't it? Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's like you're not thinking about, you know, what you got to do tomorrow or later today or whatever, but it brings you into the here and now, and I love that.
Yes, I love this one. Not sure if it's the coffee or the vibes, but I feel more energetic. Older youth. Yes, it is very good for older youth. And you know, the funny thing is, once you start getting your young people used to playing with metaphor and all this, we work, our age group is 15 to 19, and they will really get into silly mode real easy once you have to work them in slowly with super simple low bar things, but it's such a release. I feel lighter and more silly, less pressure to get stuff done, curious, attentive, and these are all life skills, right? I felt curious, attentive, a sense of community because we were doing it all together. Took my mind off my current worries. That's the value. And then let me just ask you one other real quick question. How did it change your feeling toward the people you were playing with, if it did? How did it affect your feeling toward those people? And you can either just speak out loud or put a couple comments in the.
I think it does just help to connect to them as another human being. That, you know, you see them more.
Yes. 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 I felt more yeah, go ahead.
I had a person that I actually work with and then somebody that I don't know in my group. And so like, I felt more comfortable because I had somebody with me, but now I feel like that other person that was with us, like they're ours now. They're ours.
Yes, exactly.
Keep them.
Yeah. And you know, this works wonders with those kids who are the kids that nobody wants to relate to, you know, the kids that just have a really hard time connecting. And when they show up in a game like this, young people, the other youth see them in a new light, and they never cannot see them again. It's kind of, it's almost hard to believe, but it will shift up that sense of, I'm accepted by my peers, I'm seen, right?
That was me. I felt welcome in that group. So yeah, I was a little not nervous. I mean, I love storytelling, but it's just my mind's kind of all over the place right now. So I was like, wait, what do I have to do? So it was nice that they gave me a quick explanation, and then we got started. So it was exciting.
That's so great. We're going to jump into one final activity because we want to share with you a technique that you can use, a Zoom, a program that you can use called Jamboard. Has anybody used Jamboard? Raise your hand. Okay, so the wonders of Jamboard. Jamboard is like a whiteboard, but it is it's its own thing, and we have instructions on how to do it, how to get to Jamboard in the manual we're sending to you. But we're going to go on Jamboard in groups of 5 or 6 and draw a picture of a happy place together. On Jamboard, you can draw shared pictures. So I'm going to ask Claudia, can you give me one? Can you put up the links for the first 3, just the first 3 Jamboards? First of all, I'm going to pull up Jamboard and show you how it works. And then I'm going to have you go into groups, and you'll just have, Peter, can we go over by 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not Peter, but I'll answer.
All right. So you're going to have a chance to play. My ED's calling me. That was a mistake. Okay. So this is what Jamboard looks like. Share screen. Okay, here we go. This is what Jamboard looks like. So when you go to Jamboard, you're going to get into your group, And then you're going to click on the link based on your group number. There's a link for group 1. There's a link for group 2, a link for group 1 through 4, 5 through 1 through 5, 6 through 10. And you're going to find the link for your group. And then you have to find your page. So say you're group 2, you would have gone to this link and you go up here and you find your picture for group 2. Okay. And then over here, I'm going to just show you quickly, but these are all the things that you can do. This is a pen. This is the eraser. Select, you probably won't use so much for this. Sticky notes is a really super cool thing that you can use, but you probably won't use it for this, but you can do a whole sticky note thing with Jamboard where you get people to add ideas. And you can also write in text boxes, you can add circles and things like that, all of these things. So what we're going to ask you to do, we're going to put you in a group. Now this is a little complicated here. We're going to put you in a group, then you have to look in the chat to find your link. Everybody in your group has to click on the link, and then you have to find, by going up here, the page for your specific group. Then we're going to invite you to simply play around with these tools and come up with a picture, a shared picture. Just everybody go at it and come up with a picture that represents a happy place. This does not have to be a great picture, doesn't have to be a great piece of art. Right now, we're just, you're just kind of playing around with it and having a go at this tool, which has so many uses for your groups. Okay, so I'm going to put you in groups, and can you see in the chat now that there's groups 1 to 5, groups 6 to 10, and groups 11 to 15? Okay, when you go into your group, you're just going to find yours, and you are going to have 8 minutes to be in your group drawing a picture of a happy place. Okay, and so we're going to have 10 groups. Wait a minute. And we're going to have 9 groups. Okay, so there we go. Off you go. Have fun with Jamboard. All right, everybody, here we go. All these pictures of a happy place. Okay, group number 6. Group number 7, I see that Charlie dog. Ah. Group number 8. Group number 9, and this group was great using the putting images from the internet in, which is also something you can do. So we've got 6, and I'm just going to show you the ones from the other one. Let's see, we've got to go into chat. Okay, and here's the other folks. Okay, there we go. Oh, these are just, look at that. That's so beautiful. Look at that. A different background was used there. Oh boy.
The person that used a picture was smart. I didn't think of that, just plop it in a picture. I spent a lot of time trying to have a very neat little flower that I was drawing and could have just pasted a picture.
And look at these. Oh, they're just beautiful. Okay, so we're going to stop the share. We're going to come back. Claudia, you want to do a little?
Yeah, thank y'all for joining us. I'm going to ask y'all to, in the chat, write 2 things that you learned today that you're going to implement in the future after today.
And then we're open for the next 20 minutes for just comments, questions, and it can be questions about what we did in this group. It can be general questions about facilitation. Claudia is a social worker, a specialist in trauma. Any discussion you want to bring up the next 20 minutes is welcome. Mhm. Yeah, waving to all sides. Yeah. How to get people to turn on their
It's
cameras.
really cool for people that are shy, you know, and even though like people might not, there's going to be some people that like really aren't into the making an animal noise, but they're okay with, you know, turning their camera on and off.
Mhm. Using more creativity, the body and rhythm to build connections. Use everything that I learned today. Thank you so much. They said camera on and off was a great tool. You know, the camera on and off, you can also do that as a deeper activity. We did it as a welcoming activity. But if any of you have ever used the step into the circle process, you can get into deeper territory as a way, touch into deeper territory as a way of entering more intense conversations. Claudia, you want to take it from here? Take questions?
I'm sure. Yeah, anybody that has questions, you can type them in the chat. I prefer if you just jump on the mic and ask your question, but I know that some questions came up throughout the session, and if we didn't keep track of them, now's the time to answer or ask them. And if, you know, anything else about what we shared with y'all today.
You mentioned that we were going to get a like booklet of all the things that you talked about today. Is that going to be sent in like the follow-up email?
Yes.
After the, okay.
Yeah, and we're adding some activities in there that we didn't do as well.
Cool.
And also Zoom instructions at the end.
Perfect, thank you.
Another place where we have even more activities is you could go on our website, and you know, we have videos there, things that, you know, some of them won't translate online, but what's cool about this is that you can just take elements out of there and figure out how you can adapt them for your group or your setting, because it all depends, right? Some things are going to work for certain settings. You can choose by looking at all the activities there. And we will drop the site in the chat. Any other questions?
I have a question about access. So I love how engaging all of these activities are, and I see like just certain access to like tech capabilities to be a huge barrier for some of them. And I think about like the youth who come to my youth groups, most of them are like participating on mobile devices, which like really don't have the same capability to like multitask between different apps. And I'm wondering if you have suggestions on how to address those.
Okay, so like, I think that, you know, when it comes to access, I don't know what it's like to do these via mobile, because I haven't tried that. But whatever it is that you're doing, you know, you want to make sure that you are delivering the content in a way in which can be accessible to everybody. And some of this is a trial and error kind of thing. So like I noticed that on Chromebook, somebody can't access a certain function. Well, we didn't know that. I didn't know that before. And so now I know that going in. And if there's a particular activity that doesn't work for people, then you don't use it, you know? And I think that another thing that I was thinking about in terms of access is that it's important to know and understand your audience, what they do have access to and what they don't, including mobility, right? And so like, you can get creative with the way that you're inclusive of people. So some activities, we don't know if people are able to stand up or not, or they have different kinds of physical mobility abilities and capacities. And so you want to make sure that your activities, you're always thinking of that and including people. So like earlier when we invited people to stand up, you know, you can always say, you don't have to stand up, or this is an alternative that you can use. You know, sitting down, you can also do the activity this way. And we're all gonna swim. So I'm gonna swim, and you don't need to do it exactly like me, just do something similar or do it mirror as best as you can. So those are just some ideas about accessibility and inclusivity. And so you want to apply the same lens when you go to the mobile app, is think of the ways that you can still be engaging, you can still do a strong beginning, you can still get everyone's voice in the room, and the different ways that you can incorporate those things.
And things like camera on, camera off on their mobiles, Reiko, on their mobiles, are they, can you see their faces? Can they go on with their faces?
They can,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, some of the like Zoom features, like additional features, just don't work the same way on Zoom.
And you don't have to do small groups generally. We did small groups so that you could practice, but with a small group that you're working with, you don't have to do small groups. So thinking about how can you use those 5 power tools? How can you engage, do some little thing that engages their imagination, their body, their voice, mirroring, you know. Somebody could even do like, you know, you could do that metaphoric check-in and say, okay, you know, what kind of vehicle are you going to be? And somebody could do it without even having their camera on, but make some kind of sound, or even just say, my name is whatever, and today I'm a whatever, and that's all they want to say, and everybody can just say their name and the type of transportation.
Yeah, someone earlier in our group didn't have their camera on, but they were a panda and they growled like they thought what a panda sounded like, and it was participation too.
What else?
Someone else.
Is Jamboard a free tool, or do you have to have a subscription? Like, I know sometimes it's free for other people to use, but to create one, do you have to, is it something you have to pay for, or how does that work?
It's free. And if you need to have a Google account yourself, and then you just go to Jamboard. It's in the thing, jamboard.google something, and you just, it connects automatically to your account.
So does everyone have to have a Google account to use that then? No, just the person who's setting it up? Okay.
Yeah, you just have to give the permission for everybody in your group to be part of it, to have access through the link.
Anyone else? I thought y'all were gonna have like tons of questions. That's why we put aside 20 minutes. We're like, they're gonna have so many questions.
Yeah.
I have a question. What were there with Partners for Youth? Were there any activities you thought at the beginning might be really difficult to translate online, and then you found a solution?
All of them.
Yeah, really. I mean, Peggy and I were in the middle of delivering this multi-month training when COVID happened and we couldn't meet in person anymore. And Seattle was one of the first places to start getting cases of COVID. Mm-hmm. And people that would be coming in from different parts of the country for the training. So we were like, we absolutely can't do it anymore. And we suspended the whole thing because we were like, this work doesn't translate online. We can't do it online. So we canceled everything. And then over the next few months, they as in PI, Partners for Youth Empowerment, and the facilitators over there, including Peggy, started, you know, trying it on and just seeing like, let's figure it out. Let's get together with other facilitators around the world and see what translates. And here we are, you know, we figured out that there were a lot of things that were transferable. I think that for me personally, something that I think is more challenging online that I'm not sure how we're going to work around it is using music and singing group songs, because there's delays, right? You can still do it. I just don't know, you know, how you can get a group of like 5 or 10 people singing a song all at once without it sounding weird.
Yeah, because of the lag. Yeah.
Make it a round.
Yeah. So
Totally.
Courtney said you ran into some issues with Jamboard that you were unable to draw unless you signed in with Google. Did that happen in this session, Courtney? Is Courtney still here?
Yeah, it happened in this session, and somebody else in the group also stated that as well. So I ended up having to sign into my, I can't remember the verbiage it used, but it said something about signing in, and then I exited out of that, and then all the, you know, the tools to draw on that page went gray and I couldn't click on them. I mean, I just signed into my Google and then I could do it, but I don't know if anybody else had those issues.
Yeah. And some of this, like when you start to use a new tool, you find out all the things that don't work, and then you can find your workarounds. And so if you have a small group of folks, you can, and really want to use Jamboard, then you can figure out how to get everybody going with it.
Yeah. Something that could be really powerful for y'all is to maybe have like formal or like once a month or something meetings, ongoing meetings where y'all are trying different things and y'all can share with each other or practice with each other activities.
Mhm.
And that can be really powerful because y'all can help each other be, especially in the particular settings and challenges that your particular audience is going to face.
Mhm.
And share with each other, not only like practice runs, be like, all right, you know, we got 5 people here. Y'all are going to practice and act as if you were a group of 15-year-olds. And then you can anticipate, you know, troubleshooting and just experiment on how things feel and just practice your facilitation skills.
Yeah.
I guess I have another question. This has been great for getting participation while you're in a meeting, but are you having trouble getting people to the meetings and participating? And what are some ways around that? Like, how do you encourage people? Because, you know, sometimes kids just get burned out and they don't want to, you know, be on another call or attend.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, if they feel, if you mix up your time with your group, so it's not just all talking, and so they actually feel more refreshed and have more fun, they are more likely to come back. That's number one. But Claudia, other ideas?
Well, you know, one thing that I learned about meetings, I told y'all that I work for local government, so we have tons of meetings and people usually don't want to go to meetings, whether they're online or in person. And there's one idea that I continue to remember, and it's that if people find that you spend your time doing things of value in the groups, they will come back. And so, so like Peggy's saying, if you can jam pack the meeting and be really intentional throughout the whole thing, and you know, the activity of just turning around and going like this and going like this, if you can keep layering a bunch of things like that where people are engaged, they're gonna want to come, because it's like they could be like, you know what, no other meeting is like this. And so I look forward to whenever it is that I do get to go to that meeting. But I think that, you know, those are some things. And the IPC model is really powerful, right? So at any time that you feel like the energy is going flat in a group, go back to imagination. just keep going back to the basics to engage people. And then another idea that I have is that if you have particular people that aren't, or they're not being able to make it to meetings or whatnot, is just have an individual conversation with that person, and so that they can feel seen, and hear them out, and whatever it is, you can help them troubleshoot to barriers to participation. So it could totally be something like people just feel imperfect in participating. And you can, just talk about how they don't have to be perfect, or it's okay if they don't turn on their camera. In whatever way they participate, they're still welcome. They're still, their participation is still valuable.
Rita, could you speak your question out loud just so we understand it about annotate?
Sure. So I'm on a Chromebook right now, and I learned from one of our students that you don't have the annotate function, and I'm now seeing that in person. And I did a little searching, and I thought you could just like uninstall and then reinstall a new thing of Zoom, and it would take away that problem. But you have to get like an add-on to do to do annotation on a Chromebook. So I'm just wondering if there's another function or another way to adapt that activity to accommodate young people who are on Chromebooks. I know a lot of them are on Chromebooks.
Would you be able to get them onto Jamboard through a link? Would they be able to link?
That is possible.
And you might be able to use Jamboard instead.
Okay.
Because I would think the functionality would come along. They might have to have Google accounts, but you might be able to do that. And then, yeah, obviously, if they can't do it, then you have to come up with a different activity. But if Jamboard's like super cool.
And the thing is that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So like you also have to, it's a judgment call. If like 8 of your kids have Jamboard out of 10, then, or have Chromebooks out of 10, then you might not want to do it. But if 8 of your kids can do it and 2 of them can't, as long as you're offering them alternatives. So say like, if you can't do it, there's reactions at the bottom of your screen that you can use. And that's one way. You can use your chat and put symbols in there, or you can come on the mic and participate that way. But it really comes down to being a judgment call. It doesn't make sense for you to try to do an activity if the majority of the people in the group can't participate.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Reiko, do you want to speak to this? You said sound and video are a challenge for youth who can't safely attend Zoom groups from their home. So are you saying they would, what are you saying they would be more in a public space or what?
No, what I mean is that so my group is LGBT specifically with LGBTQ youth. And I imagine others on this call, working in SADV orgs might have similar challenges when you're working with folks who have facing family violence and, living in the same space, that even as much as we want to encourage participation on screen and with their voices, that it's really not possible for folks who really need to safety plan about how do I even safely get onto this Zoom call and have the privacy in my home to be in community with these folks virtually.
So
go ahead.
Oh, was somebody gonna say something?
Claudia. Yeah, I was just gonna say that, I mean, some ideas that I have is that I've heard that one way that people can participate is fully only using the chat. And so the last training that we did, Peggy, there are activities that you can do by just asking people to turn their cameras off. And if there are people that can have their cameras on, you know, they don't have to come onto the voice. They can just still participate by doing, you know, like for, or turning their camera on and off. You know, those are ways that you can communicate, and using your chat, and then using things like Jamboard or other activities where it's just written. So those are some ideas that I have, but Peggy, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, well, you can do things like activities where it's just like really quiet. You can engage the those 5 super tools, but do it in a way that's like super quiet and almost secret. Okay, so we're just gonna put our hands together like this, super quiet, everybody, and then somebody else is gonna come up with another quiet hand movement, and we're gonna do that hand movement. So you bring it way, way down into a secret space.
Yeah, even if it's like, if they can't do sound, movement alone could be a thing. The point is that you are using the tools to the best of their functionality, but obviously there are going to be limitations to the kinds of things you can do.
Yeah.
Just to kind of jump in, I think something else that might work too, Rico, I know that when I'm on Zoom calls and I want to agree with somebody, I always go,
yeah.
So maybe kind of developing like the own sign language, because I can only imagine you have LGBTQIA youth who may not have come out to their family yet. So to even, you know, for them to even like hear that, like that's a safety issue as well. This is the only thing I have to offer as far as as far as like signing though. So good luck, but I think it's definitely needed.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
idea.
they really like to use the reactions too. So like people will just like click the heart and like celebrate one over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those emojis are fantastic to be able to draw from. Oh, I think we're at the close.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. I had a lot of fun. Time flew by.
Yeah. And
please go ahead, Peggy.
We will let you know, but at Partners for Youth Empowerment, the second Tuesday of every month, one of our international facilitators leads an hour-and-a-half session that has to do with something to do with facilitating groups, using creative practices in facilitating groups. And those are lots of fun. You're with people from all over the world. And those are from 11 to 12:30 your time, the second Tuesday of every month. And we will send you the manual a little later today, and that will have a link to our site where you can find out what kind of programs that we have on offer.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. On behalf of Wakasa and everybody who attended today, I'd really like to say a tremendous thank you to Claudia and Peggy for your time and your expertise and all your wisdom about how to engage youth and folks on Zoom when we are all feeling a little zoomed out. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And for folks who might have questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to any of the prevention team, Megan, Peter, myself, or Angie. We can also get you connected to Claudia and Peggy if you have any lingering questions for them. Otherwise, please have a great rest of your afternoon, a safe weekend, and be well.